All right, hello and welcome to another live event, the AI Sales Edge series. My name is John Golden from Sales Pop Online Sales Magazine and Pipeliner CRM, joining you as usual from a sunny San Diego. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Matt McDarby, who is across the other side of the country in Maryland. Matt is the founder and CEO of United Sales Resources, who focuses on developing sales leaders. And Ryan Cook, who I think is in Orange County. Am I correct?
I'm actually in Palm Springs.
Oh, you're actually in Palm Springs. So he's just inland here
Just
from
over the hill.
Just beautiful Palm Springs. You're probably overrun with Coachella people right now, right?
we definitely were last weekend.
Yeah, and Ryan is a partner in the Chris Jennings Group and also founder of Bizware AI. And that's what we're going to talk about today is AI and customer engagement and how AI can enable customer engagement. So as this is a live event, we always love to hear from people. If you have questions, just throw them into the chat, or just tell us where you're joining from. It's always interesting for us to know. Martha will be my colleague who is off camera right now. Will be looking after the chat. All right, so let's dive into it. Matt, maybe starting with you, how have you seen, I mean, obviously, customer retention, reducing churn, expanding wallet share, becoming advocates and references, helping you get, these are all things that we would like to do, like to have our accounts do. So how is AI impacting that?
Well, I'll start with the positive ways in which it's impacting, because what we're talking about is engagement, right? Mm-hmm. It's trying to gain access to customers is as challenging as ever, right? And going back years ago, we always had the task of delivering what's that one message or what's the thing that we're going to say or ask of a customer that's really going to capture their attention, and required a certain degree of preparation. And so there was always sort of this balance of how do I engage with as many people in my target market as I possibly can in a way that isn't sort of spammy and too generic for them to want to respond. And so the biggest impact that I'm seeing, because I'm still a seller, right? I'm still selling services, is my ability to deliver a message that combines a little bit of my personal why for what I'm doing and something I've picked up about their background. And AI really enables me to pick up on some nuggets that it might have taken me hours to find in the past. So for me, the impact is we could be a little bit more efficient and effective. And that's the good news. I'm sure we'll come back to what's the other edge, the other side of that sword a little bit later.
And how about you, Ryan? How are you seeing it on the customer engagement side?
Yeah, some of the things that I would say on the big benefit side is just the speed of response that you're able to have with customers. Like as a customer, there's not many things more frustrating than that hold music. That is brutal. The other thing that got really frustrating for me, and actually a company that I was working with during like all the COVID lockdowns and everything, they just said, okay, well, we can't have everybody in their call center where they were the customer service. Like we can't have them here, like by law. I was in Southern California. They're like, by law, we cannot have them here. And so they went to completely only having chat. And they even were manually doing all of the chat. So they weren't even having AI help them with the chat. But just being able to now have voice AI tools that can actually act as that customer service agent to take care of some of the lower hanging fruit, schedule an appointment, pass it off to the right person so people feel heard. I think that is probably a big thing on the customer engagement side. And this is more kind of, I guess, on the retention side of things when you're already working with them, is an affordable way for companies to be able to run 24-hour service or response for their customers, because there's nothing more frustrating than like having an issue and seeing that, oh no, the business hours are 9 to 5, Eastern time.
Yeah.
You live on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And those are becoming, and I think at the end of the day, I think if people are heard and it helps them at least with their initial engagement, they're not going to care whether it's AI or people or a human,
They just want their problem solved.
as long as they get their problem solved. How about from a point of view of one of the things I think that we all obviously hate, everybody hates, is surprises. Bad surprises is like when suddenly a customer churns and it was like, wow, we thought they were fine, everything was going well. Are there ways that AI can help identify, at-risk customers, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I know I won't name the organization, but a longtime client of mine has been using interactions, data from interactions with customers to trigger warnings, right? Early warning signals that are coming straight out of CRM, so that whether it's customer success or account executives or whoever's in responsible for maintaining engagement and retaining those relationships, that they are getting early warning signals to say, hey, we've noticed that, their adoption of X, right, or their use of this tool, which is a predictor of whether they are going to get value out of what we are offering them and whether they are going to stay, is now a red light or a yellow light kind of an indicator, right?
Mhm.
So in the best application, it's, hey, triggering a human's attention to reach out to another human to say, hey, let's just chat a little bit about, we noticed that maybe you're not making great use of X tool, and we simply want to make sure that you're getting full value out of, getting what you expected from us, so let's talk about that. So and I've seen a number of companies building those workflows where it's like, hey, data suggests X, we need to have a conversation, meaning we're not solving it with a bot, we're not addressing the conversation in an automated sort of way, we're simply using automation and AI to identify the signals and put them together and diagnose when we have a problem.
Yeah. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, very similar. And two kind of case studies for it would be, one's in the education space. I have a client who that's their main thing, is just driving analytics, predictive analytics, and it's utilizing AI to take all of the systems that they have inside of like a specific medical school, and they're able to say, this person needs help or they won't pass the board. This person won't pass this class. This class doesn't help people pass the boards, right? So they have a lot of different AI features that they're using to help get in front of those problems, even on the educational side of things. But as Matt was talking, I even thought about some of my manufacturing companies. And one of the tools that, or one of the ways that they're utilizing it, is identifying, very similar to what Matt was saying, but it's when they're just kind of out of cadence. When you have one of your main customers who generally purchases, maybe $100,000 a week from you, and all of a sudden you slowly maybe their order doesn't tick back like enough that the human notices, and it's kind of going up and down and it's getting a little less regular. Calling out some of those things and knowing that there's a specific interaction that we can put in place to help at least learn what's going on. So triggering a sales rep, triggering communications to the sales rep and to the outside company to create, one of those quarterly business reviews or whatever we know is kind of that solution for those problems. So similar to Matt, not necessarily AI is solving it, AI is identifying it and like offering up the solution, like kind of a softball to everybody, like, hey, here, this is an opportunity that you're about to lose if you don't do something about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we built that also into Pipeline or CRM so that there are early warning systems and fitness and health checks on customers. Because you're right, it's very, when you're so focused on selling and maybe on your latest prospect, it's very easy to miss some of those more subtle signals. Just like you said, Ryan, if you have a little bit of an anomaly or a dip in order, that may not be very obvious. One thing, I mean, and this is more on the prospecting side, we've tested out some tools that do SDR, AI outreach and stuff, but cold calling. But so far, like, to be perfectly frank, the results haven't been great. It's not. I don't think the technology is there yet. Ryan, do you think we're going to get there with tools like that, where they can actually AI can do outreach or can do that early stage stuff?
Yeah, and I've played around with that a little bit as well, and with mixed successes and mixed failures in there. And definitely, the colder the leads are, and that's just kind of normal. The colder the leads are, the worse performance that we have in there. I definitely have been on the bandwagon that I do think that is something that will get better and stronger. I've found that I have to build a lot of bots for that to get the effectiveness that I want out of it, because I just look at myself and how I treat my phone. And if I don't know you, I don't answer the phone. But the thing that I have noticed is living out here in the Palm Springs area, and I have kids, if somebody calls me from a 760 area code, I answer it because it might be my kid's school.
Right.
And so I have to build a bot for every area code that I'm targeting, and so that I can assign it a local number. Even when I ran a call center back in the day, we used to use number masking. But now all the systems pick up on that and you're just flagged as spam. But so these are individual numbers. And so it's the same tactic, but it's just a lot more work to separate things by area code and things like that. But it's one way that we've helped some of the performance in there. But again, just you need a bunch more bots to do it. It's not just like, everyone like kind of looks at it as like, oh, just have one and just goes in and dials. And again, the warmer the lead, the better. If they have a relationship, it's so much easier. And so to go back to your last question on it, I have been a big believer of, I do think this will become amazing and that we'll figure it out and that we'll get people to start answering their phone again. And then I read an article, I think it was Mark Cuban. I can't quote that it was, but I read an article the other day about how they believe that outbound dialing, and this is starting to get onto the negative side, because there's so much AI outbound dialing, that is why outbound dialing will die. And it was believable, but I'm still holding on to my my thread of hope on the other side.
What do you think, Matt? Do you think it can work, or it will work, or do you think it could be? I mean, because the downside is it could be counterproductive to your brand, right? I mean, especially
Totally.
it could definitely hurt you.
Yeah, I think I don't know if the technology will advance quickly enough to deliver the sort of experience to buyers where people will see great results from bots interacting with customers. I mean, we've had a few years to accelerate the development of these tools and make it so that they can have an effective interaction with a human. And we're not there yet. And think about all of the the billions of dollars that have been spent in this category. Look, I think if we start, all these sorts of problems tend to be fixable if we start from the buyer and work backward. And if we think about the experience that we're trying to deliver to our target customers, even if you have a fairly transactional kind of a sale, I think most of us would say, look, access is hard. Having any sort of engagement with a customer, somebody who isn't buying from us already, is hard. It's a big win when we can get any sort of engagement. We can't mess that up. We can't fumble that. And so the risk of having automation and AI and bots interacting with customers at those really critical early moments, I think is just too great right now. And I have a hard time seeing a point a year, 2, 3 year down the line where those tools are so effective that people are like, yeah, more of this, right? I want to have more interaction with a machine, right? I just don't see it. I don't see it.
That's an excellent point. And coming back to customers again, I guess one of the other areas is identifying opportunities with existing customers, identifying gaps and things. Again, going back to, do you see AI being able to help in that area, like help bubble up opportunities or identify gaps, or show here's a really good opportunity maybe to re-engage with this customer? What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, definitely. And we're using it like that right now. I'd say is that's a huge opportunity. And if you don't have a tool that's able to go in and identify where somebody could be dropping off, earlier you mentioned churn, that higher potential for churn. Maybe they haven't reached kind of that critical point inside of their onboarding process, or whatever that you've identified that you need to have happen to raise your probability of keeping them on your platform or in your services or whatever it is, there's always that aha moment you have to get everybody to. So I'll just use that as an example. If you can have a tool that's identifying that hasn't happened yet, and either putting them into a new workflow, which is probably the easiest thing, to get it in front of one of your experts to make sure that happens, I think is a great use of the tool. And it goes kind of back to what Matt was saying just a minute ago on those most important interactions. And my old CMO used to always say, if it's one of the most important interactions that you have, one of the most valuable interactions that you have, you should never outsource it. And this was back when we were like hiring it, and we would always talk about hiring a marketing agency or whatever agency. But now you could use that same conversation with AI or a bot or something like that. If it is one of the most critical steps in your process, to throw in just to say, okay, it's identified it, and now also AI fix it, would probably be very risky.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think, Matt, in terms of identifying, gaps and maybe opportunities for expansion?
Yeah, I'm thinking about, yes, opportunities for expansion, but even prospecting outbound, right? I'm thinking about, like, could I write a prompt or a series of prompts that would help me to identify if I've got, comparing it against a top performing customer of mine, they're getting great results and we've got insight into certain data. Can I write a prompt that helps me to sort of benchmark some other company against the things that they're achieving and the steps that they're taking, right? And so we can do some pretty remarkable things if we know how to write a decent prompt. And so it's sort of an indirect answer to your question, John. I think we absolutely can identify opportunities to expand, defend our relationships, find new ways to serve. But I also think those same prompts, just thinking about an individual seller on keyboard, could be used to identify opportunities with people we're not working with today. But I think that skill of knowing how to write a good prompt, knowing good questions to ask, is the thing that we humans need to do to be able to unlock the power of AI to identify new opportunities. Otherwise, it's we don't take full advantage.
And even benchmarking customers against each other within your portfolio.
Right.
We have in Pipeline, we have built in white space, which is where you can identify the product gaps, between different, customers. So I think those are excellent ways. And what about somebody mentioned onboarding there? I mean, I think that's a thing that, let's face it, a lot of people struggle with onboarding we see onboarding as an ongoing process, something that never really truly ends, right? Yeah. And we call it infinity onboarding because, customers go through different phases. But onboarding is something a lot of people struggle with. Where do you see AI helping with an onboarding process and maybe, plugging some of the gaps there?
Some of the ways that I use it just for myself when I'm onboarding somebody is a lot of times they'll need something really, really, really fast. They'll need a response to something. They'll need a mini training on something that maybe I don't have stood up. We don't have one just in a module sitting there because it's this new thing that they've dealt with. With some of the AI tools that you have, as far as being able to build like a video avatar and things like that, a very fast script, if you have a really good prompt, dropping in a few of the key things that you need in it, I can build a training video to solve their problem in what used to take an hour or so or 2 hours for me or somebody to get on and solve the problem. We can generally build a training video, drop it into their LMS, and let them start interacting with it within 15 minutes. You can have a solution loaded up in there. And so that's been just a nice kind of white glove, experience where it's like, you have that, totally get it. I'm going to go build you a solution for it. It'll be loaded up in your LMS in about 15 minutes and it'll stay there. So if this ever comes back up, you'll have that resource right at your fingertips. Or if you're ever onboarding somebody on your own team and they're dealing with the same thing, it'll just be there. And so the amount of time that it takes to create that 110% type feel, because it's something special for them, now is something that's minutes instead of hours. And so then the benefit on my calendar is very, very nice.
Yeah, and obviously, the customer is getting exactly what they need, and they're getting it almost in real time, right?
Yeah, and it's above and beyond. I always love the above and beyond. It's above and beyond what the normal expectation that was set, and it was you're an amazing customer of ours, and we're excited to have this relationship. Let me go and build you some custom stuff real quick. And in the past, that was like, don't build custom stuff. Don't do that. It's not scalable. But with AI, a lot of things that weren't scalable are a lot more scalable now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And how about you, Matt, particularly with onboarding?
Well, two thoughts. One is about using like that onboarding plan. If we have a clear vision of what the plan looks like from beginning to end to onboard a customer, that makes it possible for us to identify where are those points of engagement that we can get away with AI handling, right? Or that we can automate to the extent that it's possible to do so. And what are those moments where we can't, right? Because some conversations in that onboarding process are just too important, to our point earlier. I think the other, so that's one idea. The other idea is, I'll just, relate it to our business on the sales leadership development front. We have been building sales management playbooks for customers for a while now. And then we realized, a member of the team realized, hey, we could also be building a kind of a custom GPT that's informed by the playbook, right? So if we have a plan, an onboarding plan, we have a full library of onboarding content, we could use all that as our large language model, right? And put a tool in the customer's hands to, kind of address questions in a self-service sort of way, but let the customer know, look, it's never going to be as good as the expert, right? But real time, if you ever just want a quick query, you want to get a sense of how we would recommend you handling X or Y or Z, we've got this tool here. So I think it's important to show customers we're trying to make best use of AI and make serving them as efficient as possible without sacrificing their interactions with us, especially in those high value points in the onboarding.
Yeah, because I think, and by the way, my prepared questions have kind of gone out the window because of getting so many questions coming in from the audience. And I think what you just touched on there, Matt, is one I think that a lot of people are struggling with is, that you want to build a relationship, you want that human touch, you especially with your important customers, you really want to develop and build that relationship. So then you have to be careful about how you leverage AI. Like you said there, you can use it in that way with playbooks, but you're not saying to them, this is replacing us. Same with what you were saying, Ryan, as well. You're creating, that little onboarding or that training thing, but you're not saying this is a replacement for us,
right,
onboarding you. So how important it is, do you think, for people to bear in mind that about the human element is, and the relationship building part is still critical, and that AI can support it, but it can't right now supplant it? What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I think it's really important. And it's a reality too, that like you kind of have to embrace. Like we all, I think, sometimes can get caught up in, how can I just automate everything? And doing that, you will lose that human element. And I was just earlier this morning on with some of my clients who sell lab equipment, right? AI won't go walk the lab, and be able to look around and say what equipment is dated, what equipment is maybe out of warranty scope or anything like that, right? So, and that's where they do a lot of big relationship building, is walking the lab and being in there. And so I think you'll find the spots where it can help you with your processes. But as soon as you start removing the human touch element out of it and the relationship, and go back to kind of like sales 101, it's always been about relationships, right? And even how you're using AI, I've seen it come up in a few of the questions and in chat, and it's been in the questions in here as well, is, could it be detrimental? And once you start pulling that relationship element out and you start being completely robotic and transactional, I would say, a lot of the companies that we work with where we're fixing some of the things in their sales processes is because they became so transactional and they lost that relationship side. And so if you just go full bore on, I'm just going to replace everything with AI and a bot, I think that is your fast way of losing a lot of clients.
Yeah. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I think there's good news in all this for those of us who are willing and committed to the idea of just talking with other humans, is that is a point of differentiation now, right? Yeah. I'm actually willing to pick up the phone and call you. And if maybe you don't pick up the first time, Ryan, to your point, right? I'm calling from another area code. So You don't pick up the 301 number.
Call
But
twice.
right. But maybe the second time, or I've sent you an email, and there's something about that interaction that where you're like, okay, I see a lot of automated messages coming into my inbox. I see a lot of people who are, trying to kind of muscle their way into my day. Lo and behold, this guy, Ryan or John, just called me. Interesting, right? So I think here we are, and it's funny, this business we're in, professional selling, kind of goes like this, back and forth and back. Here we are, we're right back to the point where human interaction and being able to carry on a conversation and ask people questions like, hey, what's important to you? Or why is that the thing you're trying to achieve? That things like that are so simple that we should be able to replicate with AI are in fact not replicable.
Mm-hmm. So in the last few minutes we have, let's put on the futurist hats and take out the crystal ball. Where do you see AI going when it comes to customers and customer support and customer success? Ryan, what do you see the future?
I would say the future of it is probably more of what we're doing now and doing it better. Like, we do have some good AI automation of identifying opportunities, triggering conversations, getting it in front of the right people. But I would say even just getting better at that, because some of that is still a little clunky. You've got this app talking to this app, talking to this app that generates this for you in a lot of cases. And so I would see a lot of streamlining of that, where you don't have to have 18, APIs connecting through different things to get some of it done. And so I would say where we're seeing the best uses of AI with bubbling up those opportunities and making us aware and keeping us they're like the headlights of the car almost, keeping us on the road, but getting better at that. Because in reality, some of those are fairly clunky. They're working, but I would imagine like the crystal ball for me would be over the next few years, really seeing that become really streamlined and easy to use.
Yeah, because I mean, you're right, and one of the I think challenges that a lot of people are facing right now is, using a smorgasbord of tools, and also with our the bright shiny new toy syndrome. The trouble with AI is like new tools come out all the time, and suddenly this one is like slightly shinier than the one you were using last week. So I think getting, as you said, I think streamlining and really sorting out the ones that truly have value from the ones that maybe are a little gimmicky and maybe don't have the same level of value. Where do you see all this going, Matt?
Well, part of this is my hope, I'll say, right? But I think, given what we were saying earlier about like, look, there's differentiation, there's opportunity in the zone of connecting human to human. So my hope is the near future for AI tools for sales is that they're in the background. I think about like, how do I use Pipeline or CRM? Mm-hmm. How do I use a tool like AirCover, right? Which is kind of real time, listening, transcribing, giving me here's a question maybe you could ask, right? But it's all happening in the background. It's not between me and the buyer. It's not standing between us. It's enabling me to have a more effective conversation by serving up quick insight, helping me to see things maybe that it would have taken me more time to discover on my own. And lo and behold, it's right here on screen, right? So I really think, call it the next year or two, as far as we can see in the AI for sales world, is more robust tools that stay in the background that help me to be more effective when I'm on the line with Ryan, right? I hope that's the future. Otherwise, the promise of AI for sales may not actually be realized.
Yeah, no, those are really good points, and I think the message here is about upskilling yourself, right? Is like really focusing on being even better at relationship building, being better at active listening, being better at educating yourself, and with all these tools. I mean, that's exactly how we see it as Matt, as with Pipeline or CRM, we see AI as that supportive piece. It's like it's your assistant, it's helping you. Ryan, what do you just think about that? About your advice to salespeople? Would that be the same? Like, upskill yourself, like really work on your relationship building skills and all that, and just be more informed.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always going to be the name of the game that I'm gonna get behind. And then the other part of it is finding, to Matt's point, finding those tools that can be in the background that can turn you into 5 salespeople, right? Where you're not getting bogged down by some of those day-to-day tasks that it can actually get automated by, or that can actually be automated with some AI tools. And that, when I'm working with a group of salespeople, I don't know how many times I get told, well, I don't have time to do that because I'm doing this. And it's usually like, I don't have time to prospect, or I don't have time to do this because I was building a quote, or because I was building a presentation. That's all good AI stuff right there, right? So that you can spend more time talking to your clients and building those relationships. So I would say I double down on what Matt was saying on some of those tools you can have in the background to make it so you can operate like 5 salespeople.
And hopefully, Matt, as your focus has been on sales leaders, hopefully AI tools are going to help those sales leaders be able to focus on the coaching that you're always advocating, that's the best use of their time. And hopefully this is going to help them free up that time.
Yeah, I sure hope so, John.
Well, listen, this has been great. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Martha in Vienna, for working the chat. We've had people from all over, even somebody,
yes,
Francisco from Dublin, from
Dublin too. Yeah, correct.
My old hometown.
Correct.
So, hi, Francisco. Unfortunately, we didn't get to all of the questions because there were so many, but thank you so much for the interaction. Listen, thanks, Matt, for joining us. Thank you, Ryan, for joining us. I would encourage you to go check out their LinkedIn profiles. All their information is below this live stream. And this recording is available immediately. So please do share it. There's some fantastic insights. And we'll see you all for another AI Sales Edge series live event next month. So bye, everybody.
Thank you.